Giving all honor, glory, praises to the Most High and His Son. Thanking Him for another opportunity to get it right. Another opportunity to prove ourselves worthy. Today's class topic is, the new year begins in the month of Abib, the sun, between March and April. Again, the new year begins in the month of Abib, between March and April. All praise to the Most High and His Son. Israel, as we reflect on our lives, it's a shame that we thought that the new year begins in the middle of dead winter.
Right out.
Completely shameful. As it is written, we truly are destroyed for lack of knowledge.
That's right.
Give me Hosea, chapter 4, verse 6. That's one thing, Israel, that we need to examine. Surely and truly, we are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Read this.
The book of Hosea, chapter 4 and verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge.
God says we destroyed for lack of knowledge. And truly, that is a true proverb.
That's right.
Simply destroyed. Our sons, our children. Not in sync at all with nature. Ignorant of the workmanship of the workmaster himself.
That's right.
Ignorant. Ashamed that we truly think that the new year, a new life begins a dead winter.
Bring it out.
Truly are the nation destroyed for lack of knowledge. Give me Hebrews chapter 3 verse 10. Hebrews chapter 3 verse 10.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 3 and verse 10. Wherefore I was grieved with that generation, and said, they do always err in their heart.
We do always what?
Err in their heart.
We err in our heart. Read.
And they have not known my way.
Because we know none of the ways of the Most High and His Son.
That's right. Out.
Nothing. We know absolutely nothing. I have a lot to say. Absolutely nothing. We fail to consider the workmanship of the workmaster himself. And what does that do in return? Give me 2nd Ezra chapter 5 verse 54. 2nd Ezra chapter 5 and verse 54. 2nd Ezra chapter 5 and verse 54. Read this out.
The book of 2nd Ezra chapter 5 verse 54. Consider thou therefore also.
Consider this, Israel. Read.
How that ye are less of stature than those that were before you.
How that ye are less of stature than those that were before you. We grow more weaker. We grow more sicker.
That's right.
More vulnerable than those that have been before us. And why? Simply the lack of knowledge. Simply by lacking understanding. Simply by lacking wisdom. Read that again.
Consider thou therefore also how that ye are less of stature than those that were before you.
Read.
And so are they that come after you less than ye.
That's all I want on that. Consider that, Israel. This is what happens. This is what happens to a nation when we are truly destroyed for lack of knowledge. We decrease in stature.
Bring it out.
We decrease in stature. We decrease in stature. Take this opportunity, Israel, to give your mind, give your heart to know and understand wisdom. Give me 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 15. 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 15. 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 15. Read this out.
The book of 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 15.
Read.
Study to show thyself approved.
Study to show your damn self approved.
That's right.
You have to study to show yourself approved.
That's right.
Nobody can do it for you. Read that again.
Study to show thyself approved.
Read.
Unto God.
Read.
A workman.
A what?
A workman.
A what?
A workman.
How can you call yourself a workman when you still consider that the dead winter is the beginning of the year?
Write it out.
A what?
A workman.
A workman. Read.
That needed not to be ashamed.
Read.
Rightly dividing the word of truth.
Rightly dividing the word of truth. in Israel to call the new year, to claim the new year in the dead of winter. That's a false way.
That's right.
In the truth, man of God, we hate every false way. We hate it.
That's right.
We hate it. Give me Sirach, chapter 7, verse 17. Sirach, chapter 7 and verse 17. Surely the new year begins in the month of Abib.
That's right.
The end of March, beginning of April. Read this.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 7 and verse 17. Humble thy soul greatly.
Do what?
Humble thy soul greatly.
Humble thy soul greatly. Read.
For the vengeance of the ungodly is fire and words. Change
So,
not.
Shalaki, give me Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 17. Shalaki. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 17.
The book Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 17.
Read.
For he hath given me certain knowledge.
He hath given me certain knowledge. Read.
Of the things that are, namely, to know how the world was made.
So to verse 16.
Verse 16. For in his hand are both we and our words.
For in his hand are both we and our words. Read.
All wisdom also.
All wisdom also is in his hand. But what else is in his hand? Read.
And knowledge of workmanship.
And knowledge of workmanship. And knowledge of workmanship. Israel, how can you say you have knowledge, but you neglect and don't understand how the things around us work?
No.
How can you truly have knowledge when you fail to understand how the things around us work? For in his hand are both we and our words, all wisdom also, and the knowledge of workmanship. To truly have knowledge, you must have knowledge of workmanship. How the things work around us. Read.
For he hath given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely, to know how the world was made and the operation of the elements.
And the operation of elements. But it's gonna explain itself. Read.
The beginning, ending, and midst of the time.
So in order to have knowledge, and in order to have knowledge of the workmanship, you truly understand the operation of elements, the beginning, the ending, and the midst of times. Read.
The alterations of the turning of the sun.
The alterations of the turning of the sun. And what does that do? Read.
And the change of seasons.
And that's how you get the change of seasons. That is how you get the change of seasons. Read.
The circuits of years and the positions of stars.
Israel, that's just some of the knowledge that we must obtain, that we must have and pass down to our children.
That's right.
Because surely our children are our future. This is knowledge that we must obtain. Knowledge that we truly must obtain. The alterations of the turning of the sun and the change of seasons. And the change of seasons. Let's ask Israel a question. How many seasons are they?
Bring it out.
How many seasons are they? Majority of us will say 4. But that's why he tells us to study to show ourselves approved. Give me Genesis chapter 8, verse 22. Genesis chapter 8, verse 22. Genesis chapter 8 and verse 22.
The book of Genesis, chapter 8, verse 22.
Read.
While the earth remaineth.
While the earth remaineth. Read.
Seed time and harvest.
Seed time and harvest. Understand, Israel. False balance is an abomination. Our God is a God of just weights.
That's right.
Just measures. Read that again from the top.
While the earth remaineth. Seed time and harvest.
You have a seed time and you have harvest. Read.
Yeah. And cold and heat.
You have cold and you have heat.
That's right.
Read.
And summer and winter.
And what?
And summer and winter.
And you have summer and you have winter.
Bring it out.
Israel is only truly 2 seasons.
That's right.
Summer and winter. Read on.
And day and night shall not cease.
You see how everything has a duality. Everything has its mate, its balance.
Bring it out.
God is a God of just weight and balance and measures. Give me Psalms chapter 74 verse 17. Psalms chapter 74 and verse 17. Psalms chapter 74 and verse 17.
Read it out.
Read this out.
The book of Psalm, chapter 74, verse 17.
Start at verse 16.
Verse 16. The day is thine, the night also is thine.
Read.
Thou hast prepared the light and the sun.
Read.
Thou hast set all the borders of the earth.
Thou hast set all the borders of the earth. Read.
Thou hast made summer and winter.
Thou hast made summer and winter. Israel is only summer and winter.
Bring it out.
Thus said the Lord. Make sure you study to show yourself approved, Israel. Let God be true and every man a liar. Acts chapter 5 verse 29. Let God be true and every man a liar. Surely. Acts chapter 5 verse 29.
The book of Acts chapter 5 verse 29. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey God rather than men.
We ought to obey God rather than men.
That's right.
We ought to obey God rather than men.
That's right.
Go back to Wisdom of Solomon 7 and 18. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7, start at verse 16. Start at verse 16. Read that again.
The book Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7 verse 16. For in his hand are both we and our words.
In his hand are both you and your words, your thoughts, your desires, your motives are in his hand. Read.
All wisdom also.
Read.
And knowledge of workmanship.
We are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. We are destroyed for a lack of knowledge of workmanship.
That's right.
Israel truly understands nothing. Israel truly has no understanding of how the things around us work.
Bring it out.
Truly destroyed for lack of knowledge of the workmanship of God. Read.
For he hath given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely, to know how the world was made.
Read.
And the operation of the elements.
We don't understand how the earth was made, the operation of the elements. Read. Hold up. This says the operations of elements. We don't even know how to harvest energy.
Bring it out.
We don't even know how to use water, use the energy from the water and harvest it for ourselves, for our well-being, for our livelihood.
Bring it out.
What about the wind? We truly don't understand the operation of the elements. The operation, the knowledge of the workmaster, the knowledge of the workmanship himself. We truly don't understand. We don't know.
The beginning, ending, and midst of the times.
Not understanding the beginning, the end, and the midst of times. Read.
The alterations of the turning of the sun.
We truly don't understand the alterations of the turning of the sun and what that does. And what does that do? Read.
And the change of seasons.
It changes the seasons. Read.
The circuits of years. And the positions of stars.
Read on.
The natures of living creatures.
Is where we have no knowledge of the workmanship of the living creatures around us. The plants, the animals. Read.
And the furies of wild beasts.
The furies of wild beasts. Read.
The violence of wind.
Read.
And the reasonings of men.
Last but not least, man, we don't even understand each other.
Bring it out.
We don't even understand human nature.
See?
Oh yeah, there wouldn't be no division in Israel.
That's right.
Truly we are destroyed for lack of knowledge of workmanship. Read on.
The diversities of plants.
Read.
And the virtues of roots.
Man, Israel can't tell you nothing about any type of plants nor roots.
Bring it out.
Israel, give thine heart to know and understand wisdom. Give me Revelation chapter 1 verse 3. Revelation chapter 1 verse 3.
The book of Revelation chapter 1 and verse 3. Blessed is he that readeth.
Blessed is his son or daughter who readeth. Blessed is he that readeth. Israel, read.
That's right.
Give thine heart to know and truly understand. Give thine heart to truly know what happens, what's going on. Give me Exodus chapter 21 verse 1. Exodus chapter 12 verse 1. Exodus chapter 12 verse 1. Let's get into it. The new year truly begins in the month of Abib. And in this Gregorian calendar, that lands in the end of March and beginning of April. Read this.
The book of Exodus, chapter 12 and verse 1.
Read.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months.
This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. What is this month? We're going to get into that. But again, it says, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. Read.
It shall be the first month of the year to you.
It shall be the first month of the year unto you. Read.
Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month.
In the 10th day of this month. Read.
They shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their father, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house.
What are we going into? That's the Lord's Passover.
Right.
Go, jump down to verse 6. This is why knowing the time is so important.
That's right.
Knowing the alteration of seasons, the turning of the sun. This is why knowing it is so important, because it is vital in our history. It is vital in our walk.
Right.
Because things happen, man. Things happen. Great wonders and powers of the Lord were done thereof. Jump down to verse 6. Read.
Verse 6. And ye shall keep it up unto the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
Jump down to verse 10.
Verse 10. And ye shall let nothing of it remain unto the morning. And that which remaineth of it unto the morning ye shall burn with fire. And thus ye shall eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And ye shall eat it in haste.
You shall do what?
Ye shall eat it in haste.
Give me Leviticus chapter 23 verse 5. Leviticus chapter 23 verse 5. Just want to show you guys the importance of understanding the times, the seasons, the months. Leviticus chapter 23 verse 5.
The book of Leviticus chapter 23 verse 5. In the 14th day of the first month.
And the 14th day of the first month. Read.
At evening is the Lord's Passover.
Is the what?
Is the Lord's Passover.
Is the what?
Is the Lord's Passover.
Is the Lord's Passover. It is the Passover of Christ.
That's right.
It is important to truly know when the first month of the year is.
That's
because
right.
it is the Passover of Christ.
That's right.
And what good does this knowledge do us if we don't pass it to our children?
Bring it out.
Read that again.
In the 14th day of the first month at evening is the Lord's Passover.
It's the Lord's Passover. It's the Lord's Passover in this first month. Do you celebrate the Lord's Passover dead winter?
Bring it out.
Where everything is dead. Nothing in sight bearing any fruits.
Bring it out.
Read on.
And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread.
Is the what?
Is the feast of unleavened bread.
And we also keep the unleavened bread in this month. Give me Deuteronomy chapter 16 verse 1. What is this month? What is the name of this month? Deuteronomy chapter 16 and verse 1.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 16 and 1. Observe the month of Abib.
Do what?
Observe the month of Abib.
Observe the month of Abib. Read.
And keep the Passover.
And do what?
And keep the Passover.
And keep the Passover. And keep the Passover. The month of Abib is when the new year starts. You got your Comeback Bible Dictionary. Give me a month of Abib. I got you right here. A month of Abib. Page 13. Month of Abib. Page 13. Month of Abib. Page 13. Read this out.
This is out of the Compact Bible Dictionary. Page 13. Month of Abib.
The month of Abib. Read.
The pre-Zilic name of the first month of the year. After the exile, the name was changed to Nisan.
Read.
It fell about the time of our March in early April.
Read on. Count on that. It says the month of Abib. That marks the first month of the year. Jump down to Deuteronomy 16 and 1. Read that again.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16 and verse 1. Observe the month of Abib, and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God.
Read.
For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night.
By what?
By night.
You see that right there, you see that Compact Bible Dictionary. Israel truly understanding that the month of Abib marks the beginning of the new year.
That's right.
And it means an ear of corn.
Bring it out.
The month of Abib means an ear of corn.
Bring it out.
Does corn yield from the earth in dead winter?
Bring it out.
Again, Israel, does corn yield in dead winter? It says, read that again.
Observe the month of Abib.
Observe the month of Abib. Read.
And keep the Passover.
And do what?
And keep the
It
Passover.
tells us to observe the month of Abib. Observe it. Because what it means is an ear of corn. An ear of corn. An ear of life.
That's right.
That's when the beginning of life begins. Does it truly begin in the dead of winter?
Bring it out.
On January 1st?
Bring it out.
Or does the earth begin to yield its fruits in the time of March or April? Read that one more time.
Observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover.
Observe the month of Abib, the year of life, the year of corn. Read.
And keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt.
Understand in Israel that we came forth out of Egypt in this month.
That's right.
We came forth out of Egypt in this month.
That's right.
Give me additions of Esther. Chapter 11, verse 2 in the Apocrypha. The additions of Esther. Page 55. Yes, sir. Matter of fact, give me Esther out the Bible. Esther 11 and 2. Esther chapter 11, verse 2. Understanding that the new year begins mid-March, mid-April. End in March, beginning of April. Look at Esther chapter 11, verse 2. Can't find that, bro. Give me First Esdras 5 and 6. First Esdras chapter 5, verse 6.
The book of First Esdras, chapter 5 and verse 6. Who spake wise sentences before Darius the king of Persia in the second year of his reign.
Read.
The month Nisan.
The month Nisan. Understanding the name of Abib changed to Nisan. Truly understanding the workmanship.
Bring it out.
For the month of Nisan, for the month of the Abib, truly marks the beginning of the year. Read that again.
Who spake wise sentences before Darius, the king of Persia, in the second year of his reign.
In the second year of his reign. Give me Esther, chapter 3, verse 7, after Nehemiah. Esther, chapter 3, verse 7. The book after Nehemiah.
The book of Esther, chapter 3 and verse 7. In the first month, that is, the month Nisan.
In the first month, that is, the month of Nisan. These are things we must pass down to our children's children, to our sons, to our daughters, truly understanding the seasons. For the first month of the year is the month of Nisan, the month of Abib. Read that again.
In the first month, that is, the month Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus.
In the first month, that is, the month of Nisan, the month of Abib.
Bring it out.
The month where the earth begins to yield.
Bring it out.
The ear of corn.
That's right.
When it starts to get hot. This is knowledge we must pass down, or our children will still begin to be destroyed.
That's right. Bring it out.
Without knowledge, our children will just perish. Give me the editions of Esther. Go to page 55. 11 and 2 of the Apocrypha.
The book of Esther. The editions of Esther. Chapter 11 verse 5. Behold, a noise of a tumult, with thunder and earthquakes and uproar in the land.
So to verse 2.
Verse 2. In the second year of the reign of Artaxerxes the Great, in the first day of the month Nisan.
First day of the month of Nisan. First day of the first month. The first month is Nisan, Abib, Israel. And it begins in the March, beginning of April, when it begins to be hot. When it begins to become hot. When the earth begins to yield.
Bring it out.
The earth does not yield in the dead winter, Israel. Apply this knowledge. Apply this wisdom. Get this understanding. Give me Exodus chapter 23 and verse 15. Exodus chapter 23 verse 15.
The book of Exodus chapter 23 verse 15. And in all things that I have said unto you, be circumspect, and make no mention.
Exodus chapter 23 verse 15.
The book of Exodus chapter 23 verse 15. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in the time appointed of the month of Abib.
In the time appointed of the month of Abib. These are things we must know.
That's right.
These are things we must know.
That's right.
What do we do instead? And we trust in our enemies, man.
Bring it out.
We trust in our enemies. Give me Sirach, chapter 12, verse 10. Sirach, chapter 12, verse 10.
The book of Sirach, chapter 12 and verse 10. Never trust thine enemy.
Never do what?
Never trust thine enemy.
Never do what?
Never trust thine enemy.
Never trust thine enemy. Never trust them, Israel. Everything we've been taught was a lie.
That's right.
Everything we have been taught here is a lie. Give me Psalms 119, verse 126. Psalms chapter 119, verse 126.
The book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 126.
Read.
It is time for thee, Lord, to work, for they have made void thy law.
We have made void the ways and understanding of God. It's time for us to work, because our children are surely destroyed.
That's right.
No knowledge of God, no knowledge of workmanship. Our nation is destroyed. No knowledge of God, no knowledge of workmanship. Read.
Therefore I love thy commandments above gold.
We love this knowledge before gold.
That's right.
Read.
Yea, above fine gold.
Read on.
Therefore I esteem all thy precepts concerning all things to be right. And I hate every false way.
You do what?
I hate every false way.
Read what?
I hate every false way.
Israel, we've been taught a false way.
That's right.
We have been taught a false way.
That's right.
How the enemy measures the times and the seasons is a false way.
That's right.
It is false. Give me Psalms 119, verse 104. Psalms 119, verse 104.
The book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 104. Through thy precepts, I get understanding.
Through these precepts, through this knowledge, through this wisdom, we get understanding. Read.
Therefore, I hate every false way.
Therefore, I do what?
I hate every false way.
Israel, you should hate every false way, Israel.
That's right.
You should hate the ways that have been taught to our sons and our daughters.
That's right.
2 men of God hate every false way, Israel. And we have been taught a false way. Deuteronomy 12 and 30. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 30. Read this.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 12 and verse 30. Take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them.
Israel, we have been snared by following them. We have been snared. 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 Read.
Be destroyed from before thee.
And we do what?
They be destroyed from before thee.
Israel, look at the condition of our people. Some of us bring shame to our forefathers.
Bring it out.
Bring shame. It'll be a shameful thing in the sight of our forefathers for one of our sons to walk outside and call the dead of winter the new year.
Bring it out.
Bring shame to our forefathers. Truly and simply, we truly are destroyed by lack of knowledge.
That's right.
Lack of knowledge. Read that again.
Take heed to thyself, that thou be not snared by following them. After that, they be destroyed from before thee.
After we be destroyed before thee. Israel, ain't we in captivity?
Bring it out. That's right.
What manner did our forefathers walk in? How did our forefathers walk in captivity? Let me give you a glimpse. Give me 2 Maccabees 10 to 22. 2 Maccabees chapter 10 verse 22. 2 Maccabees chapter 10 verse 22. We don't take this serious, but our forefathers did.
Bring it out.
2 Maccabees chapter 10 and start at verse 21.
The book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 10, verse 21.
Read.
But when it was told Maccabees that was done, he called the governors of the people.
Start at verse, you know what? Start at verse 20.
Verse 20. Now, they that were with Simon, being led with covetousness.
Being led with covetousness. Understanding this, where we're in captivity at this time, and majority of our people were led with covetousness.
That's right.
Read.
Were persuaded for money.
Were persuaded by vain glory, for money to be seen. Read.
Through certain of those that were in the castle, and took 70,000 drachms, and let some of them escape.
Read.
But when it was told Maccabees what was done, he called the governors of the people together and accused those men. They had sold their brethren for money and set their enemies free to fight against them.
In this captivity, we sell out our nation for fame and glory to be seen. And guess what? In return, you let the devil, you let the deception is free to fight against us.
Bring it out.
Deception is free to destroy us. We don't safeguard the knowledge. We don't safeguard the knowledge of the workmanship of the workmaster. We don't do it.
Bring it out.
Instead, we want to be seen, and in return, it sets the enemy free to devour us.
Bring it out.
All the enemy is deception, the devil. And what did our forefathers do in that time to the Israelites that didn't want to safeguard the knowledge of the workmanship of the workmaster himself? Read.
So he slew those that were found traitors.
Israel will be killing some of you ox out there, man, because y'all be found traitors in the sight of God.
That's right.
Truly, we'll be found traitors in the sight of God, man. Nobody's safeguarding this knowledge.
Bring it out.
Nobody's safeguarding this knowledge. But instead, man, all we want to do is rap.
Bring it out. Bring it out.
How can we take pictures being proud when our children are still being destroyed to this day?
That's right.
How can we be proud when our children are for a prey? Surely the wisdom that you have profits you nothing if you don't pass it down to our sons.
That's right.
Give me Sirach chapter 37 verse 25. Sirach chapter 37 verse 25. This is one thing Israel don't understand. Read this. Sirach chapter 37 verse 25.
The book of Sirach chapter 37 verse 25. The days of life of man may be numbered.
The days of the life of man may be numbered. The days of our life are numbered, but read.
But the days of Israel are innumerable.
Surely we live on through our children.
That's right.
What precedent are we setting for our children? What foundation are we setting for our children?
Bring it out.
Are we safeguarding the knowledge of the workmanship of the workmaster? Are we selling out our nations for money, for vain glory?
Bring it out.
Setting the enemy free to devour us, to fight against us.
Bring it out.
Go back. 2 Maccabees, chapter 10, verse 23. Turn to verse 22.
The book 2
Turn to
Maccabees,
verse 21.
chapter 10, verse 21.
Read.
But when it was told Maccabees that was done, he called the governors of the people together and accused those men that they had sold their brethren for money.
Man, Israelites in the nation, they sell us for money.
That's right.
Not literal money, not being literal. What is money now?
Bring it
YouTube
out.
views,
Bring it
debate,
out.
videos, vain glory.
That's right.
Our nation sells us out simply for vain glory. Read on.
And set their enemies free to fight against
And they
them.
set everything else free to fight us. Truly we are destroyed for lack of knowledge.
That's right.
But read on.
So he slew those that were found traitors and immediately took the two castles.
It's time for us to slay these Israelites that have been found traitors and take the kingdom for ourselves.
That's right.
We've been down too long.
That's right.
Destroyed too long.
That's right.
Go back to Leviticus chapter 23. Leviticus chapter 23. Start at verse 5.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 23, verse 5. In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover.
Understanding that it is imperative to safeguard the knowledge of the workmanship. It's imperative to understand the seasons, the times, the alterations of the suns. Because of that first month of the year is the Lord's Passover.
That's right.
Our children should be able to walk outside and tell what time they're in.
Bring it out.
Surely the number of the days of mortal man are numbered. But Israel, it's through our children that we live on forever.
That's right.
We must instill this wisdom, this knowledge in our children.
That's right.
Read on.
And on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread.
Israel, we don't celebrate in the dead of winter.
Bring it out.
Where everything is dead.
Bring it out.
Give me Exodus chapter 13, verse 14. Exodus chapter 13, verse 14.
The book of Exodus, chapter 13, verse 14. And it shall be when thy son asketh thee in time to come, say, what is this? That thou shalt say unto him, by strength of the hand of the Lord brought us out from Egypt, from the house of bondage.
From the house of what?
From the house of bondage.
I'm telling you, Israel, I'm telling you. When we was coming in, when we was born, man, there was nobody to tell us. Nobody was there to tell us what this is. Nobody was there to tell us about the strength of the Lord that our God brought us about the land of Egypt in the month of Abib.
Bring it out.
Who's passing this down to our sons?
Bring it out.
Who's passing this down? Because surely I wasn't taught this.
Bring it out.
It's time for us to break the curse, man, and take the kingdom back.
That's right.
Read that again.
And it shall be when thy son asks
It shall be when our son asketh us, man. Read.
in the time to come, saying, what is this? That thou shalt say unto him.
When your son asks, what is this? What are the seasons?
Bring it out.
When our sons and daughters walk outside and they ask, what is the seasons? What time are we in? But read.
By strength of the hand of the Lord.
Thou shalt say, by strength of the hands of the Lord. Read.
The Lord brought us out from Egypt.
Son, in this month of Abib, this month of Nisan, our Lord brought us up out of the land of Egypt.
Bring it out.
Read.
From the house of bondage.
Out of the house of bondage, son. Out of the house of bondage, daughter. Observe the month of Abib. Observe the month of Nisan, which truly begins in a March, beginning of April.
That's right.
Because the month of Abib means the ear of corn. When the earth begins to yield its fruits. And son, the earth does not yield in the middle of dead winter.
That's right.
Everything is dead around us.
That's right.
How can you call it the beginning of the year? Read on.
And it came to pass, when Pharaoh would
That's all I
harden,
want on that. Give me Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5.
the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 5. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words, which I command thee this day, shall be in thine heart.
Shall be in our heart. The thing is, these words are really supposed to be written in our heart.
That's right.
But read on.
And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children.
I'm telling you. When I made my introduction, or I made my entrance into this world, these principles were not taught to me.
Bring it out.
These principles surely was not safeguarded.
Bring it out.
Because our nation has sold us out for money.
That's right.
Letting the enemy free to fight against us, man.
That's right.
Read that again. Our what thy children teach what?
And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy
We
children,
should be teaching this knowledge of the workmanship diligently to our children. Read.
and shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thine house,
We should be telling these, our sons and our daughters when they sit in our house. Read.
and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up,
Read.
and thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thine hand.
Find this knowledge of workmanship upon our children's and our sons' hands. Read.
And they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes.
And keep them as frontlets between their eyes. Keep them as frontlets between their eyes.
That's right.
Israel ain't safeguarding this knowledge, man. We don't even got no school set up.
Bring it out.
Nothing set up. Nothing.
Bring it out.
But we walk around proud. Bringing shame to our forefathers, man.
That's right.
Bringing shame. And if we was in those ancient days, man, majority of us would be slew.
That's right.
Because we set the enemy free against us to devour us. And what is the enemy? The devil. And what is that? Lack of knowledge.
That's right.
Surely we are destroyed for lack of knowledge.
That's
We
right.
must safeguard this knowledge. It's a must. It is imperative to our existence. It is imperative to our future. Read on.
And thou shalt write them upon the posts of thy house, and on thy gates. And it shall be, when the Lord thy God shall have brought thee into the land, which he sware unto thy father, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give thee great and goodly cities, which thou buildest not,
But read.
and houses full of all good things, which thou buildest not, and wells digged, which thou diggest not, vineyards and olive trees,
Vineyards, olive trees. Read.
which thou plantest not,
Read.
when thou shalt have eaten and be full.
So the thing is, Israel, we getting to eat and to be full. Look around.
Bring it out. Bring it out.
It's all about I'm telling you, it's all about that money now.
That's right.
It's them blue hundreds making Israel feel some type of way.
That's right.
Them pink 50s making Israel feel some type of way, man.
Bring it out.
Making Israel feel some type of way. But read.
Then beware, lest thou forget the Lord.
Then beware lest thou forgot God. So how did the nation forget God? What is it that deceiveth the nation? What is it that deceiveth the man? What is it that deceiveth the man? What is it? What deceives a man?
Bring it out.
Galatians 6 and 2. Galatians chapter 6 verse 2. What deceives a man? Galatians 6 and 2. Read this out. Galatians chapter 6 verse 2.
The book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 2. Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ.
But read.
For a man think himself to be something, when he is nothing. He deceiveth himself.
Israel, they deceive themselves because they begin to think of themselves to be something when they are nothing.
Bring it out.
We deceive ourselves.
That's right.
We deceive ourselves. I'm telling you, the whole time that the scripture tells us that a man and a woman should keep his mind in the heavens. And the whole time an Israelite think his mind's in the heavens, surely is in earth the whole time.
That's right.
In earth the whole time. Go back to Deuteronomy chapter 6. Deuteronomy chapter 6 verse 12.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6 and verse 12. Then beware, lest thou forget the Lord.
Then beware lest thou forget God. And how do we do it? What separates us from God? What deceives man? When he thinks of himself to be something when he is nothing.
That's right.
Look around the nation. We in captivity, but all Israel can do is take a picture of their damn self.
Bring it out.
All we can do is boast about self. Like our children ain't being devoured.
Bring it out.
Like the children in our future. We tend to forget that mortal man days are numbered, but it's Israel that lives forever. It is the nation that lives forever. It is through our children that we live forever.
That's right.
It is through our children. Read that again.
Then beware, lest thou forget the Lord, which brought thee forth out of the land of
It
Egypt.
says, then beware lest thou forget the Lord which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt. We don't even know when God brought us up out of the land of Egypt anymore.
Bring it out.
And what month? Read.
From the house of bondage.
From the house of what?
From the house of
But I
bondage.
want you to read that again, verse 12. Read that one more time for me, y'all.
Then beware, lest thou forget the Lord, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt.
Then beware lest thou forget the Lord which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt. So what thing did we forget? What thing did we forget? Exodus 34 and 18. Exodus chapter 34 verse 18.
The book of Exodus, chapter 34, verse 18. The feast of unleavened bread shalt thou keep. 7 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, as I commanded thee, in the time of the month of Abib.
Understanding that we were delivered out of Egypt in the time of the month of Abib, the
right.
first month of the year. Read.
For in the month of Abib thou camest out from Egypt.
We came out of Egypt in the beginning of the year.
That's right.
We came out of Egypt in the first month of the year.
That's right.
And what does Abib mean? The ear of corn.
Bring it out.
When the earth begins to yield its fruits.
That's right.
Do the earth yield anything in the month of the winter?
Bring it out.
In the midst of dead winter? Or is everything dead around us?
Bring it out.
Israel, it is an imperative that we safeguard the knowledge of the workmaster himself, the knowledge of workmanship. It is imperative that we safeguard it and pass it down to our children, man. Very imperative that we understand in this month we came out of Egypt. Very imperative. Go back. Deuteronomy chapter 6. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 12.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6 and verse 12. Then beware, lest thou forget the Lord, which brought thee forth out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage.
Israel, surely we have forgotten. Surely we have forgotten. You know, Israel, we proud. Look at the nation, man. Everybody happy.
Bring it out.
But we ignorant to the fact that our youth are being devoured, man.
That's right.
How can we be happy when we send our children to these schools to be destroyed?
Bring it out.
Children absolutely considering not how the Lord stretched out his hand and delivered us out of the land of Egypt. Children considering not the times that we delivered out of the Egypt.
See?
Considering not. Give me Psalms chapter 78 verse 5. Psalms chapter 78 verse 5.
The book of Psalms, chapter 78, verse 5. For he established a testimony in Jacob, and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers, that they should make them known to their children.
We should do what?
Make them known to their children.
How are we happy? How are we walking around proud? Not comprehending that the children are our future, and our children are being spiritually destroyed.
Bring it out.
How can we walk around so proud?
Bring it out.
And we leave our children, our future, for to be desolate. We leave our future to be annihilated.
Bring it out.
Read that again, huh?
For he established a testimony in Jacob, and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers, that they should make them known to their children.
This knowledge we are supposed to make known to our children.
Bring it out.
Read on.
That the generation to come might know them, even the children, which should be born.
That the children to come might know. That the children to come might know the works of the Lord.
That's right.
The powers that have been done thereof. That our children might know. Read.
Who should arise and declare them to their children.
Who should rise and declare them to their children. But read.
That they might set their hope in God.
That they do what?
That they might set their hope in God.
See what happens when you don't safeguard the youth.
Work it out.
None of our sons and daughters setting their hope in God anymore. None of them. None of them.
That's right.
None of them truly understands what God means, what God is. None of them.
Work it out.
Because we have failed them. We have failed our future. We have failed them.
That's right.
And it's time for them to take it back.
That's right.
Read on.
That they might set their hope in God.
That they might set their hope in God. Read.
And not forget the works of God.
Our children have forgotten the works of God.
That's right.
The nation have forgotten the works of God.
That's
Read.
right. But keep his commandments, and might not be as their fathers.
And might not be as of our forefathers, our mothers, our fathers, who were what?
A stubborn and rebellious generation.
Who were stubborn and rebellious.
That's right.
Stubborn and rebellious.
Bring it out.
Some of us say, no, they wasn't. No, they wouldn't.
Bring it out.
But give me Sirach 11 and 28. Sirach chapter 11 and verse 28. Read this.
The book of Sirach, chapter 11 and verse 28. Judge none blessed before his death, for a man shall be known in his children.
Israel, a rebellious, stubborn state, is surely known by our fathers.
That's right.
Surely known, because we are just a product of our environment.
That's right.
Surely we are just a product of our environment.
That's right.
Go back to Psalms, chapter 78 and verse 8. Look at the condition of the state of Israel. Read this.
The book of Psalms, chapter 78 and verse 8. It might not be as their fathers, a stubborn and rebellious generation.
We are stubborn and rebellious because our fathers have been.
Bring it out.
We are stubborn and rebellious because our fathers did not pass down the knowledge of workmanship.
Bring it out.
Surely we'll destroy the lack of knowledge. Surely. Read.
A generation that set not their heart aright, and whose spirit was not steadfast with God.
Our heart is not set aright. Our children's heart is not set aright. Our spirit is not steadfast in God. Our children's spirit are not steadfast with God because we did not teach them. We did not ingrain it in them. In Israel, we must do a better job, Israel. Safeguard this knowledge.
That's right.
Understanding that truly the new year begins in the month of Abib, Nisan, which is the end of March, beginning of April.
Right.
For the month of Abib means the ear of corn.
Bring it out.
Means when the earth begins to yield. Does the earth truly yield in the midst of dead winter? Israel, make sure that we are hearkening to this knowledge and passing it down to our children, to our sons. Because surely in the month of Abib, we'll be delivered out of the hand of Egypt. Truly in the month of Nisan, we keep the Passover, we keep the unleavened bread, and it takes place in the beginning of the year.
That's right. That's right.
On that note,